Oh, yes. Loeffner bore all the hallmarks of an MK Ultra patsy, and that's what we're looking at these days, is this evolution of the methodology for executing these crimes and getting patsies involved in mind control, the use of psychotropic drugs, erasing memories, inducing psychotic behavior, especially with the case of this latest suspect named Holmes. Apparently, there is no creepy backstory to this guy. Unlike Loeffner, there were a lot of people who came out to say that he was a really creepy, scary guy. It turns out later that a lot of those sound bites were probably faked anyway. But with this kid, there seems to be no creepy backstory. Just out of the blue, he flips out and decides to become the Joker and kill at least a dozen people. And also he was serving under a National Institute of Health grant and a neuroscience division of the university, and the NIH has been long implicated firsthand.
Oh yeah, they use these programs under
experiments.
They use these under Ewing Cameron to actually kidnap test subjects and use them for mind control. I mean, he's right in the middle of a Department of Defense funded program in mind control sciences.
Yes, and we're already seeing, like you've reported, the divergent eyewitness accounts. Now, when I look at the primary purpose of A Noble Lie, and the real reason we wanted to get it out, was not just to expose the Oklahoma City bombing. Obviously, that was the primary reason, but the deeper reason was that if an attack like this happened again, a false flag attack, people who had seen the movie, seen the evidence, seen what this government is capable of doing, what it has done in the past and what it is talking about doing in the future. If an attack like that happens again, be able to recognize
yes, sir. Stay there.
Telltale signs of an attack.
All right, I want to get Chris Emery in here, but Holland, continue with the points you're making after the last 6-7 years. I know Chris Emery even more immersed in studying false flags and how they work. You know, it's hard for people that don't spend all their time studying this, like I've been doing for 17 years, to just hear us say, oh, yeah, it's got the earmarks. Folks, when we say it's got the earmarks, I mean, it's got the earmarks. I wish this guy was a lone nut, but now he's clearly drugged out of his mind on television, and they're just going to tell us open and shut case. We'd be crazy to believe a government that's been caught running so many other false flags.
Exactly. I mean, this is not the world I want to live in. I'd much rather be doing other things with my time, but I'm not going to deny reality. And the fact is that this government has time and time again, as many governments around the world, engaged in the false flag methodology that has cost innocent lives in order to enact a political agenda. This is a basic 101 politics, geopolitics 101. We've seen it time and time again. You referenced Operation Northwoods earlier. Well, they actually talked about shooting American citizens on the streets of America to provoke a war with Cuba. That was from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That was approved by the Secretary of Defense. That was approved by the political structure of the day up until JFK shot it down. So it's not unheard of at all, and they've done it before. Operation Gladio, you were referencing. The Italian Senate actually indicted the CIA for its role in the Bologna bus station bombing that cost 89 lives. Those were innocent people in order to enact a strategy of tension, to keep people scared, keep them on edge, and make them vote for the politically convenient party, convenient to the interest of the CIA.
And now we have 3 memos.
And in this case, and like I said before, is that we made A Noble Lie so we could wake people up to the fact of what this government was capable of and what they would do in the future. And we referenced a Clinton cabinet official, Robert Shapiro, who was in the government during the Oklahoma City bombing, who later opined in an editorial that Obama needed another Oklahoma City or 9/11. Now, this guy just wasn't an observer, perhaps making a callous remark. He was in the government when the bombing happened. He saw exactly how they benefited, and he was saying the Obama administration needed another mass murder to justify election and a political agenda.
And he actually said that quote, and that's what's frustrating. We then have all these other fundraising memos where they said, don't worry, a new Oklahoma City or 9/11, and they're going to get the blame. I mean, that right there, they are so arrogant, and then this magically happens right as they, in the last 6 months, have been delivering the TSA kits for checkpoints all over the highway. We've talked to high-level Department of Transportation whistleblowers that say they're getting ready in the next few months to roll this out, and then right on time this starts. If we start seeing more of these, then we know it's a setup.
And Fast and Furious. One of the, I guess you could say, good benefits of Fast and Furious was that it was unlikely that Obama was going to be able to get gun control legislation passed because of the blowback from Fast and Furious. It was simply ridiculous that the federal government is asking for restrictions on our gun use when the biggest gun runner in the past decade is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms under Operation Gunwalker, Fast and Furious.
And they did it to blame the Second Amendment.
Now that's all blown out of the water.
And they did it to blame the Second Amendment. CBS News broke that almost a year ago. Let's go to Chris Emery. We're about to go to break, but Chris, what's your first look on this, having 3 or 4 days to look at it?
First of all, I want to extend my condolences to the victims' family members and survivors. That's one thing that we did immediately when we studied the Oklahoma City case. People that lost their lives, a very sacred loss. Second thing is, I'm going to suggest to every single one of these family members, hire an attorney, get a completely independent view of what's going on here, because I can guarantee you that you're being lied to. I say that as a filmmaker that looks at the facts. Holland can back me up on this. There are so many cases that we reviewed, and this is consistent, and you did an excellent job on Friday and over the weekend reviewing all of these cases that are similar. You cannot believe the federal government anymore. Simple as that. The top dogs that are taking control of this case are going to lie, flat out, bald-faced lie to the family members and have no compunction about doing it. So they have to hire independent forensic experts and independent counsel to make sure that they get the truth on what happened to their loved ones. That's the bottom line. And it's frustrating because we see this happen time and time again, and we've got to get the truth out on this.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it would be a lot less scary to think he was just a lone Ronald McDonald killer. I forget calling him the Joker, but they're already saying he's the guy, and he can't even talk. He's obviously bombed out of his brain. We knew. We'll talk about Jolly and West and mind control when we get back. That's my first question, but I want you to be able to finish, Chris Emery, with all the points I know you've got there you want to go over. Because, again, these are guys who have investigated in depth with the primary survivors and witnesses the false flag that was Oklahoma City. And I'm telling you, the prime suspects of this new event are the people that did this, okay? That's why these guys are important.
We're on the march. The Empire.
Your mind causes your defeat.
Ladies and gentlemen, it came out in the congressional hearings in 94, 95 that Waco had been a ATF stunt because of Ruby Ridge. They looked bad. Congress was looking at just getting rid of them entirely. So there's film of them in the documentaries about it, like Waco Rules of Engagement, loading up their video cameras going, these are really great kooks. We're going to get some great footage of this to launch their new war against domestic extremists. So they found a group they thought they could demonize. They could have arrested Koresh in town. He went into town every day. They owned an auto repair shop down the street. Instead, they went in there and started a fight with them and then burned the place down. So that blew up in their face. FBI cooked the bomb, trained the drivers in the first World Trade Center attack. Look that up. I mean, this is not our opinion. The Lavon affair being staged by Israel. The plan was to shoot up and blow up movie theaters and places where Westerners were at and bomb their, churches and things. There have been a lot of other events. I went over them yesterday. The point is that when you study this, how did the CIA and MI6 overthrow Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953 in Iran? Look up Operation Ajax. It's at CIA.gov. They don't even hide this. It's declassified. They committed mass shootings of mosque and of crowds of people who didn't like the more secular Mossadegh who wanted to develop Iran. But he wanted to keep part of the oil money for his people. He was the man of the year, Time magazine, really nice guy, compared to a lot of some of the extremists over there. And who did they say they were going to put in power? The Muslim Brotherhood. They staged attacks claiming Mossadegh had done it against the Muslim Brotherhood type extremists that were really Shiites. So I guess Muslim Brotherhood's kind of a mixture. The point is, and then they double-crossed them and put the Shah in. And again, mass shootings are one of their favorites to then blame it on who they want. And you've got all these White House memos. In fact, we're going to have them on the nightly news tonight, and then we'll air part of these reports tomorrow. A lot of work goes into all of this. Paul Watson's got a new article coming out very, very soon. The ATF's in trouble, putting out videos to their own people saying, watch out, don't report on our crimes. All of this is happening right now. The UN treaty is just a couple weeks away. They could sign it as early next week. And then magically this happens. Are there real mass shootings? Yes. Are there real crazies? Yes. But when you see something like this, notice it happened close to Columbine and Littleton. Total shadow government command base. Department of Defense funded programs going on. I've been in these neuroscience departments. You can't go in half the facility. Even though I might have accidentally got into one once. The point is that it's all about mind control. Because that's what control is all about. Mind war is what they call it. Chris Emery, finishing up your points, continuing here.
I'm going to do a wide shot of this. Just one of your shirts, Alex, says defend freedom. And that's you defend your freedom by finding out the truth, whether it be your loved ones or your neighbors or people that are horrifically murdered in the case of this last week. We base our research on the facts. And like I said, I urge every one of the victims' family members and survivors and their close friends that have the wherewithal, that have the resources to find out what happened last week. You deserve the truth, and you're not going to get it from the controllers from the federal government. I wish I could say differently, but we've gone over literally dozens of cases, big and small, and it's consistent. They will lie to you and have no compunction about doing it. We just got the issue Rolling Stone magazine out of my P.O. box this weekend. The Making of Dark Knight, 2-page article on here, and it's called Nolan's Reboot. It's basically a review from director Christopher Nolan. Let me read this real quick, just a few sentences. Anyone who's tried telling stories after 9/11 noticed that the real world becomes horrifically fictional. So all of our fictions seem to aspire toward realism. In Nolan's films, Batman is a soldier, and it echoes the whole war on terror. They're the best expression of Batman that's been done so far. This is a line between reality and fiction, and it's becoming crystal clear that who's controlling and who's blurring that line.
That's right. They're blurring it on purpose. They're blurring it on purpose. I've talked to high-level producers. Chris Carter of X-Files, I've talked to his top people. The CIA came to them and said, do an episode where a hijacked jet gets flown into the World Trade Center and the government's really behind it as a way to attack Afghanistan. And they use a drill to make everybody stand down. What do you guys continue along that line of why they're trying to blur reality with fiction? But then also, what do you make of the drill at the university being run, of a local movie theater being attacked by a guy who uses smoke bombs as a distraction?
Well, the whole Batman mythos is about legitimizing covert state operations. It's all about the forces of law and order that are unable to cope with this evil, and they must call upon this man in black to skirt the law and do things that aren't really approved of, but really society needs someone to be behind the scenes doing these covert operations.
He has to use the NSA to spy on everyone.
A product maybe of the Cold War. I need to do my homework on the origins of the Batman comics, but that's certainly what the mythos is being used for today. And we see like the telltale signs, the concurrent drills. One of the signs that that something is fishy is if there's a concurrent intelligence, military, or police operation or drill that simulates the real thing. And now we have a drill being run out of a medical department simulating a mass shooting in Colorado in a theater with bombs being thrown also, almost to a T. And this was the only medical department in the country that was running this kind of drill, and it was just down the road from the theater from where it took place.
And again, Webster Tarpley's written Synthetic Terror, a 300-something-page book, 400-page book breaking this down. It's done so that other agencies, if they discover it, you just say it's part of the drill. It's also used to confuse NSA chatter.
Yes, the concurrent operations have several different functions. One, to move assets in place, to cover their butts as they move assets in place. It's under the cover of this drill. And then afterwards, it also is part of the cover-up, because the people involved in executing what they thought was a drill only afterwards may or may not realize that it was actually part of the real thing. And now they're either complicit or they're kept in the dark about their true role. It also